guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and appreciate you guys joining me for today's video. Appreciate that. And today, guys, we're going to be talking about rocks and some tips and advice on fishing rocky banks and any type of rock structure. Yesterday we did a video on fishing bluff banks, which is a type of rock structure, but today I sort of want to have a broad discussion on the different type of rock structures and how bass use them, time of year they work good in, and the techniques that works good in. So we're going to dig into that in today's video. Guys, you can't believe what I just did. I just got done filming this video, right? Took about 10 minutes to do it, and I forgot to hit the play button on my phone here, so I didn't I went through the whole video and having to redo it right here in the truck. And another thing, guys, and that a lot of y'all been seeing me in the truck here a lot lately. I have had one of those weeks where I've just been so freaking busy, man. I have not had time to sit down and do a video in the tackle room hardly, or go to the lake. So I'm definitely going to try to get back in that swing next week. So I appreciate you guys putting up with all the truck videos here. Also, guys, one quick thing I do want to remind you before we get started here is that Tackle Warehouse has got that big 12 days of Christmas sale going on. Bunch of great sales there at Tackle Warehouse. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video if you guys would like to take advantage of that link, and helps the channel out, helps you guys get some good deals. And also, guys, anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, just send me a private message on my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler. I'll get you all the details for that. And finally, guys, sorry about the hoarse voice. I got a bad cold right now, so I'll try to get through to the best as I can in today's video. Okay, out of all the type of structures that are available to anglers, in my opinion, rock structures offer the most diversity of any type of structure for a bass to be in. Now, a lot of people would argue that grass would do that, and I agree that grass is an exceptional structure for bass, but the grass applications are limited. You know, grass applications have a lot to do with, you know, just they're a good ambush point for the fish. Grass is always changing. Sometimes it dies out, sometimes they spray it, sometimes it's more dense at certain times of the year. There's a lot of inconsistencies in grass on lakes, but rocks are a consistent feature. They're the same day in and day out, year after year, decade after decade. They never change, and they provide a tremendous amount of really good habitat for fish and forage. So let's talk a little bit about the type of rock and the best rock for bass fishing in. Now, I sort of classify it in two different scenarios based upon rock size. First one is when you have rock size that is like a minimum of like the size of a football and bigger. You know, bowling ball size rock, football size rock, the rock that it's like big as a 8x10, you know, notebook tablet, something like that, and bigger. This is a very, very important rock size because it offers the best habitat for crawdads and a lot of different other type of creatures the bass eat on. But bass love rocks that are, you know, anywhere between bowling ball size and up. It's a great habitat for them. It's a great hiding place for them, especially if the rock has got a flat side to it. Lots of crawdads use that type of area. So anytime that I'm fishing rocks that are the size of a bowling ball or bigger, my favorite lure to fish on them is some type of a crawdad imitating lure. It could be a crawdad pattern crankbait. It could be like a crawdad replica, like that Megabass, the Megabass sleeper craw. It could be a Ned rig. It could be a creature bait that looks like a crawdad. This is just a really good type of rock to fish crawdad lures in because crawdads live there. Not to say you can't catch them on other baits, because you can. We'll get into it a little bit later. But that's the main consideration that I have on rock size. Now, as the rocks get smaller, down to like the baseball size rock and the gravelly type pea gravel rock, you don't have the crawdad habitat there. And therefore, since you don't have the crawdad habitat, your crawdad lures normally don't work quite as good on those areas. On the flatter banks, the gravelly type small rock banks, I catch more fish on shad imitating lures like shad pattern crankbaits, jerk baits, you know, swim baits, that type of stuff. They just seem like they do a lot better. So that has a big impact on, you know, my lure selection with that. Now, another thing that you're going to find out with rocks is the angle of the bank and the proximity to deep water or lack of has a huge impact on how productive those rocks are going to be. Most of the time, the flatter rock bank that you have that is further away from deeper water access, the less productive it is. And the steeper the rock bank is, that has a closer distance to deeper water, the more consistent and the productive that is. Because what you have is, if you have a flat bank that doesn't have much deep water access to it, it doesn't offer a lot of a positive, living aspects for a bass. It's like they don't have a lot of hiding areas. They don't have a lot of escape routes. The water temperatures fluctuate a lot more in that shallower water. They can be good based upon different water levels, because, say, for example, if the waters are high and you got flooded cover, they'll move into that type of stuff, but they pull out real quick and disperse through different parts of the lake. But on those steeper rocky banks that are closer to deeper water, the bass don't move horizontal as much. They move more vertical, and they don't go anywhere because everything they need is right there. They've got the cover, they've got the habitat, they've got the deep water escape routes, and that's why your more steeper vertical banks, like your steeper channel banks, your bluffs, all those type of areas that drop off quick into deeper water, are consistent bass producers 12 months out of the year. And they're probably my favorite type of areas to fish, because they really are highways for the bass. The bass use them to move up and down those banks to different parts of the lake, and they also use them as nighttime feeding areas if they've been suspending out in the middle of the lake during the daytime. Prime example, what happens on a steep bank is, if you have like a steep rocky bank during the daytime, a lot of times some of those fish will go suspend out maybe 50, 100 yards out off the bank in deeper water, and they'll swim up to those steeper banks at night to feed. And then back and forth, they move back and forth, because it doesn't take a bass just a few seconds to go 50 or 100 yards. It's not like it's a big migration for them. So it's a safe access. It's a good feeding environment. It's a good habitat safe area for them. That's why, if you're going to fish rocky banks and be consistent, try to stay on those steeper rocky banks that have rock size a little bit bigger than bowling balls. Okay, some of my favorite techniques based upon both of them. If I'm fishing a steep rocky bank, like a channel bank, a bluff bank, steep riprap bank, crankbait and jerkbait are my two favorite baits. You can cover water with it, which is a big deal, because a lot of times on a rocky bank, you're dealing with large, vast areas of rock. So a crankbait and a jerkbait will allow me to cover a lot of area. And if I start catching some fish, say for example I get into an area where I'm catching multiple bass, at that point I do slow down with the crawdad lures, slow on the bottom. So let's say I hit a little 50-foot area where I catch 3 or 4 on a crankbait. I'll back off, slow down, throw a jig there, throw a creature bait, throw a Ned rig. Usually can pick up more fish with that. And if I'm fishing the flatter banks, that doesn't have as much rock on it, this is again when I'm fishing, like the jerk baits over them, swim baits, some top waters based upon time of the year, any shad pattern type of a lure will work in that type of deal. But that's just a very, very basic, guys, kindergarten, sort of a first grade level tips and advice on rock. There's a lot more subtle details with that, and those subtle details have a lot to do with like where the rock is positioned at within the lake or the creek arm, the correlation between the water clarity and the water temperature, the time of day, the sunlight angle, the type of wind that's coming on the bank, a lot of different variables to it. But anyway, I think that's enough information just to get you started on it, and hope it helps you guys pick up a few more fish here and there. So we'll talk later.